And a pleasant Wednesday evening to you, coming to you live from World Headquarters. It is episode 109 of The Other Side of the Ball, and as you can see, I guess I'm the only one representing the West Coast, I guess. I got one special guest and a recurring special co-host, of course. Double A in the house with you, joined by, as always, Mr. Corey Hammond. And joining us today is Chris Vera's good buddy. You can catch him on his podcast. RTU finally comes to the other side of the ball. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm great, and yourself, man. It's a pleasure, man, to be here. It's definitely an honor, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, we can thank Mr. Hammond for the invite. So, last week we counted down the top 7 quarterbacks in our league for 2024, and today we're going into the trenches, going into the trench warfare. We will talk about the top 7 combination of defensive linemen and linebackers. Will your 7 make the list? Stay tuned and find out. Corey, how are you, sir?
I'm good, gentlemen. Happy early Halloween. What's up, Travis Gallardo, Vanilla Vic, and Daniel Packer in the chat?
And
of course, Keith Salmons, not the fish, right? Not the fish. That is a illustrious defensive back and media personality, otherwise known as RT Space U on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
Now, Dub, what I think is an interesting way to start this show as we, move, both forward, and we can actually hear Dub. That is correct, Jordan Davidson. I will not call you by your chat-given name. And I won't call you Milk as much anymore. Now, I just said it, but I won't do it as much. But I think a good way to recap kind of where we're at is to get our guest's opinion. We'll say the spokesperson for the Del Marva, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know Del Marva. No, not a lot of people know about that Del Marva. That's Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, by the way.
DMV, all the same,
So as Dub is going to get the list of the returners,
okay.
I'm going to give you real quick, Keith, the quarterback list, and you tell me what you think of it after we're done. So we'll start off bottom and then rise to the top. Now, caveat and reminder for any of the listeners in the chat that missed last week, first of all, go watch. I mean, support your own league, especially you, Vic. That is real. But we'll start with number 7. We had up there Fox, the quarterback from the Force, made our list. And you'll
go ahead. The ball head dude, right?
Is he bald? I wouldn't say he's bald. That was Rock Briscoe, the
okay.
elder statesman.
Okay. I guess you could say Fox had like a little mini flat top going.
Yeah. Well, I think he's saying when he says the bald dude, he's talking about, and you're talking about number
Briscoe.
2, kind of. Yeah, Rock Briscoe. Now, Rock Briscoe used to be my favorite player in the league because he was a quarterback that was older than me. Now it's probably Snoop because he's freaking like 73 still playing on somebody's roster. Shout outs to my guy Snoop.
Big Gregory Smith.
Shout out. Greg. I was about to say his government too, but thanks for Dub will be the narc over here, Keith, for those.
No, not being the narc, just trying to, for those that don't know who he is.
Listen, Charlie Batch. Okay? When you give people their government, I get called McNulty for the government.
Hey. Shout out to Luis Ojeda for giving the aforementioned nickname that Corey Hammond loves to say any chance he gets.
Yeah. So we was at 7.
So 7 is Fox, the quarterback from the Force. He's the guy that on paper in a combine looks like he's one of the best in the league. Against the top teams, I think he just needs to elevate his game just a little bit more to be in that upper echelon. But being in the top 7 ain't too shabby. And you'll actually notice that there's a couple of names missing from here, and we'll go into the caveats there. So 7 was Fox, 6 Quattrell Huffin. Now I know he's super low, but he did miss a lot of time. So let's be honest. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. Huff, who last year, not this most recent year, but in 2023 was the MVP. We have him number 6 on the list, but again, he did miss a lot of time, and you'll notice that there's kind of a theme here.
Okay.
Number 5 is two-time A7FL world champion Scott Scooter Hamilton from the Insomniacs. Again, missed some time.
5?
Yeah, listen. Well, listen who was in front of him. And listen, that's why I'm going over this list so we can have that part of the conversation.
Okay.
Number 4, we have David Tender. Again, if my argument for David Tender is if you went by one single game film, he might be number 1 on this list. But again, he missed some time, and he didn't even start. I think the first 2 games of the year, he started. He was the main starter by week 3, and then missed a couple of games here and there. Number 3, I got OG Buck. Okay. And number 2, we have the Sickwit quarterback. I don't know if you're familiar with one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, who I try to be the champion for him because I don't think he gets talked about enough, is Jeremy Geary, quarterback.
Big guy, right? Big tall guy, right? Number 14.
I believe he's number 6. Double correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure he's number 6. But he is he's not super tall. He's definitely the ideal quarterback height. And he's not, he's not like round.
Which quarterback are we talking about now?
Jeremy Geary. What jersey number were we wearing?
He was number 9.
9. I'm sorry, I said 6. I'm thinking of
okay. I know who he is. I know
you were in the right shape of the number.
Yeah,
you just gotta flip
it. Okay.
So Jeremy Geary. And I feel bad that I fucked his jersey number up. And then number 1 was Sterry.
Okay.
So you'll notice. Thank you, Milk. We need to get you on.
We can't call him Milk. We can't do that.
We're not going to call him Vanilla Vic. He has yet to throw. He has yet to throw for 200 yards in a game, and at the same time run for 50. I did that last year in one game, and that's ridiculous. No, I didn't.
I mean, call him Jordan, bro, because we can't say Milk. We can't.
I have this entire time.
Con tu leche.
I mean, only reason why I say
leche means something else in Spanish. And shout out to Puerto Rican people. I'm sorry, Tony Hinchcliffe was such a weirdo. So Sterry, Geary, Buck, Tender, Hamilton, Huff, Fox. Now you notice there's no Bagway. He's a utility guy, we're gonna say, because he plays a lot of position. No logo, same thing. And I think maybe the best actual quarterback off this list that isn't on the list is Ace Boogie, because in my opinion, if you look statistically, not that he's not one of the better quarterbacks talent-wise in the league, but statistically, he just was not even 1B for Sickwit. For the Watchmen last year. He was definitely well behind OG Buck in output. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the top 7 quarterbacks. Keith Salmons from RTU.
Okay, so when Bagway first came in the league, he came in as a quarterback. You know what I mean? So, I think that, he's a utility belt. He can be used all over the field. But
and again, he didn't play in all of the Florida regular season games. To be fair, Deontay Henderson, someone we might be naming later on in today's list, here's a tease, actually played quarterback for them at least one time, maybe a couple of times. But my bad, keep going.
Deontay Henderson?
Yeah, the linebacker played quarterback for them early on.
Okay, and that was number 9 with the dreads, right?
He doesn't have dreads. He was the one who snatched Buck's soul from him in Delaware from the rare breed.
Yeah,
you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
He did Liberty dirty too, but
he did. He does everyone dirty. I'm just saying. I mentioned one of his more, one of his more famous hits.
Devastating.
If you call it that in our league.
I think that besides the dudes, I think Huff. I think that he a little low. You know what I mean? And this dude, Sickwit, dude, he hasn't won anything. You know what I mean? Like Sickwit used to be my team.
He beat the Insomniacs.
But listen, out of how many times?
I don't know. More times than other teams have.
But
he makes a valid point. Valid point. It's a valid.
What's his win-loss record?
Undefeated in the regular season.
No,
undefeated in the
I'm
regular
talking.
season.
Okay, but realistically, only real team over there for him to play is the Insomniacs. And if you want to go head-to-head record with this guy, Scooter got him by a couple games. This dude ain't win nothing, bro. He going over there, he doing what he's supposed to do, and he's beating the lower tier teams. But they beat them guys in the regular season, and they won their Super Bowl. And beat them in the regular season. I said to myself, this is the only time they're gonna beat them. And Insomniac's gonna come back, and we know who's gonna be in the championship. And what happened? This I don't understand how this. Now, if we talk about regular season play, yeah, but is he
We're
really the
talking
best? And he
about
really ain't
we're
win
talking
nothing?
about quarterbacks in the season. Did you watch the A7FL championship game?
Yes, I did.
How did both of those quarterbacks play in that game?
Okay, so I think the game was well managed. I think it was a real chess match. Scooter was more so using his arm, and he got out there to block and stuff like that. So he was kind of in the trenches. And Sterry, he was more so using his legs in a sense. I mean, he used his arm some, but he used his legs. But I think that the game was managed well by both the quarterbacks. But like I say, you got other aspects of the game, such as special teams, that made a really big impact. You know what I mean? So, because if
Well,
if
yeah,
if
yeah.
Donye
I think.
Lawrence, if go, I'm sorry.
Well, what I was going to say is yeah, Jeremy Geary does lose to the Insomniacs here and there, but it's not because he's not playing well. He doesn't not show up in those games. If you look statistically, he's one of the better performers, more consistent performers in the big time games. If you look at the way that he beat the Insomniacs in the regular season, in my opinion, and this is just me breaking down just Jeremy Geary, not Sick with it, not the rivalry, not the
Okay.
what. And I don't want to denigrate Scott Hamilton, which again, he's lower on the list because he played less games because he was injured. And there were games in which that they didn't feel like they needed to show up with their starters. So he was chilling, watching Zach Luciano, shout outs to Zach, running around like friggin', Fran Tarkenton, if you know the reference, maybe Case Keenum. I don't know. Not Case Keenum.
I get it.
Who's the special teams player that the Saints use all the time?
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. So Zach Luciano was kind of doing that for the Insomniacs this year. Jeremy Geary, as Jeremy Geary goes, Sick with it has a chance. And even when he does perform extremely well, which, let's be clear, they've only ever lost to the Insomniacs. If we were to try to make the same kind of argument for a guy in the DMV division, right? OG Buck, we could say this exact same thing. He's never won anything. That takes away that does a lot of heavy lifting against what is obvious, which is OG Buck is one of the best quarterbacks in this league for a lot of reasons. Whether he wins a championship or not is not always determinant on his ability to play the position.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my only Jeremy Geary point. And not that you're wrong. That would just be my kind of pushback on that. But so that's Geary, and you said Huff and Hamilton.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Tender?
I think Tender he deserves it. He deserves it because he came in instantly and made an instant impact on the Animals team that needed it. You know what I mean? Because when Huff left, nobody knew. When Huff left, everybody thought, oh yeah, Huff left. You know what time it is. Back to regular schedule programming. But he came in and did something a lot of people don't do. He made an instant impact. You don't get those type of players. So I think that David Tender, he's definitely well deserving of being one of the best, top 7 quarterbacks in the league. I think that is well deserved. Where on that list, I don't know. But does he deserve to be on that list? I truly believe he does. But I want to get back to this Sick with it guy, because I used to be a Sick with it fan for 2 years, and they let me down. To 2 straight years. I'm talking about they let me down. Listen, bro, they let me down 3 straight times to the Insomniacs. So I'm okay with the regular season. And and don't get me wrong, I am a Buck. I criticize Buck. You like a Peyton Manning sometimes. Boy, you're great in the regular season. You get the playoffs, and it's just be like, But this dude, I just feel like the difference between this dude and Buck is, we can kind of say he ain't win nothing, but he beat those dudes. This dude only beat his rival one time. Buck beat his rival, it was the U. You feel me? He beat them more than one time. This dude from Sick with it, I liked him as a quarterback, but when big games come, you can only say, oh well, yeah, he beat them one time. One time not good enough for me. Y'all
All
been
right.
in the
I
league
mean,
and playing this
listen.
team for what? 3 years now.
I mean, head to head,
Talk to me. I'm sorry. I get carried away.
No, you're good. I mean, you look at the output of his offense against the Insomniacs and say what you want in the first game, whether they came with their 100% or if they were just kind of chilling and then had to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think he averages somewhere around like 40 something. How many points did they have in the playoff game, Dub?
Hold on, let's go to the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Well, I know when they
and
won.
another thing I wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying when they won in the regular season, they put up 56. It was a 56-50 game. I know when they played the first time when JG took over as QB, it was a 42-39 game. So we mostly know that they're mainly high-scoring games, down to the wire type of game.
He's put up more yards and more points than even Sterry did. And now I think Bagway put up more yards, but not as many points.
They put up 46.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but Bagway put up a lot of yards.
Yeah, well, him and Logo Davis surely did for sure. Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, listen. I think that when a quarterback fails to win in the big games, that's your job as a quarterback is to win those games. So you're going to get the criticism. I just think that as a quarterback myself, and knowing that you could, I threw for 1,000 yards in the last 2 seasons. I have 0 wins. Now I should have done better, but that doesn't always tell the story. Oh, your team lost, your quarterback's ass, right? And I don't think that you're saying that Jeremy Geary's ass. I'm just saying to be mentioned among these guys. But I will say this: he's around 2,500 yards and like 30-something touchdowns. Nobody anywhere is really consistently doing that. In his first 2 seasons, he's been off the charts. The only one that's comparable in his first 2 seasons is Sterry. If you remember, maybe we take the best years of Woog when he was scoring, 70 touchdowns with Matt Riddick in Pennsylvania. And the way that per game, not in a full season, but per game, the way Bagway and Tender were doing, we're talking about a lot of great quarterbacks here. So to play semantics with Jeremy Geary, I think it's fair to have a criticism, but I don't believe that he's not within the conversation. But it's good to hear what your perspective is. Now, I'll just kind of pigeonhole you right there. If I gave you 1 season with 1 guy and health is a part of it, who would you pick among the active quarterbacks in the league to be your quarterback if you were trying to win a championship?
If I'm trying to win a championship, I'm gonna go Huff.
I'm
gonna go
fair.
Huff every time. But if I can't pick Huff, the obvious pick was some people would say, "Oh man, it will Sterry." No, I'm gonna go David Tender. Go David Tender. Huff 1, David Tender 2, and if I had to pick a third, it would be old boy from the Force. Nothing wrong with Sterry. I respect his game. I love his game. You know what I mean? But when I'm looking for a quarterback, I look for different things. Not saying Sterry's not a quarterback, but is he my ideal type of quarterback? No, because I do like a dude that's going to throw the ball a little bit more. But if you got to run, you got to run. You know what I mean? He's a dual threat quarterback. But, just to shine light on other cats because, we know what Sterry coming with and we know how he coming. So, I just feel like, if I had to choose my guys, I would choose Huff 1, David Tender 2. And old boy from the Vegas Force 3.
And Tender, I love his game. I think he's a great quarterback.
Oh yeah.
He did set a record.
His pocket presence.
His decision making ability is second to none, and he makes the quick decision. He makes the correct decision quickly, which is why he's able to get those runs and get those throws. And he also scrambles for time to throw, not only just to run. But I'll say this, he did set a record last year, and if you're concerned with Jeremy Geary beating anybody, I would ask you who David Tender beat, because it's nobody. And he did set a record last year for most playoff losses in a single season. I don't think it will ever be beaten because he was 0-2 in the playoffs. So if you have an issue with Jeremy Geary, I would say that Tender, if that narrative is what you're going with, Tender's narrative is pretty troublesome as someone who, I'll ask you this outright. Who'd he beat?
He ain't beat nobody, but you asked me who would I start it off with. You know what I mean?
Listen, I'm not I'm not on your timing with the argument that you made for Geary, right? Even though the Animals lost those games, we can clearly see that. I mean, David Tender had one of the best offensive performances, maybe close to ever in the history of our league, against one of the better defense, maybe one of the best, recent defenses we've seen, right? I mean, that BSC pass defense, especially with H3 Frazier, Sire Hancock, Chick, JJ, like go down the list. But it's interesting when you just do like narrative. I mean, we could play the narrative game with David Tender, and he's 0-2 in the playoffs in only one season, which is ridiculous. And I just think it's a fascinating stat. And he also has only beat, let's go down the list, Snow Tribe, Renegades, Buzz. So, well, we'll see. Now I'm just going to run real quick.
I believe that, hold on, the Animals wasn't 4-3 this year? They didn't upset nobody?
I mean, they played the U.
Because I knew it was
played the U tough. Lost, right? They played the Watchmen. Played the Watchmen in the playoffs. Tough as hell. That was a great game.
I was there.
And how'd that game end?
Corey, listen. I'm going to tell you this, Corey. That was one of the greatest games that was never caught on film. I feel like that was one
if you talk to Will Franklin, and shout outs to our head referee and media personality when he's not going to get himself in trouble by talking about games. No, I'm just checking. We love Will. But if you talk to Will Franklin, he said that was one of the best games he's ever seen in person. He's seen a lot,
listen.
Including both recent championships.
Listen, man, let me tell you, Corey, this dude, man, came out there, and we know how that Watchman Dion is, right? We know.
I do personally, yes, I know very well. They remind me every time they see me, and I'm not going anywhere.
Hey, listen,
I'm just in the pocket.
Hey, listen.
That
was for that abuse. That was for that abuse that you came down here with a couple years ago with the King. So you know what I mean. I had to some type of get back.
Yeah, that was that. You know what's funny? It's I think I only had 3 kids then. I have 5 now. So that's how long I've been trading on that moment in history.
He's got a starting 5 now.
If you do go to that field though, Dub, the field in Baltimore, it is Corey Hammond Memorial Field after that win over the then best defense in the country.
Yeah.
That's what Ryan DePaul was saying. So I'm just hyping it up.
He ain't lying.
At the time, I mean, look, I put 304 touchdowns on him, but whatever.
Yeah, listen, Corey, you came out there and you balled out, bro. You feel me? But going back to the topic for real, I think that his performance, alone, the things he did was special. You know what I mean? And for a guy to come in the league and be his first year and be that special and take a team. All right, let's disregard what Huff did the season before. If we can take away that season where Huff went to the Animals, David Tender really breathed life into the Animals, if y'all get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, he really was breathing life into the Animals. Like, we all knew.
The way that I'll phrase it, right? Mm-hmm. When Huff went there, he went there with expectations because of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So when Huff was on the Animals were already legitimate because he was there. Mm-hmm. And he imposed his will on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When Huff went to the Animals, weren't they winless the previous season before?
Yes, they were.
Huff got there. Okay,
yes,
Owen forever.
Okay,
they were pulling like Corey Hammond type shit, right? But here's the thing: when Huff went there was expectation with the Animals because now that they're got Huff. When Huff left, we threw the Animals right back in a trash bin.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yes.
They started their season off with Bebo as their starter. I played them first week of the season, and I won't blame the refs ever for a game. The fans did, but anyway, we won't get into that either.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he was able to bring the Animals back to relevance in such dramatic fashion I think is more of an impressive thing than Huff, who he brought his guys that are all kind of, known entities, veterans in the league, a ton of guys that have already been successful year in, year out with the U, brought legitimacy to the Animals. David Tender was the unknown guy, bringing unknown guys. And look, Kwani Morgan, Manny Diaz, Divine Epps.
Yep.
The list goes on with guys that made the Animals relevant again.
That is fact.
That to me, whenever you mention the Animals and Huff is involved, and then it's the U, like we can't hide from the fact that Huff is such a force of will and personality and talent that he's part of the conversation. So when David Tender is able to replace him, and then we're kind of looking at like, wow, the Animals have a bright future, even though they just had a quarterback that went there, was the MVP of the league and dipped after one season to go back to his original team. That's what I think the David Tender, crowning achievement is, other than the fact that he set an A7FL record that I don't think will ever be broken.
Yeah, that back-to-back, 0-2 in the same year in playoffs was crazy work, but,
It's crazy work, but let me be clear. The only reason I say it tongue-in-cheek is because, first of all, it's crazy, but second of all, I don't think anybody had a better average yards per, like total yards per game than David Tender. And the reason I know that is because me, Matt, and Rob for the 3-on-1 podcast, shout outs to my guys. I'm glad the move went well. Matt, headed up, he's moving on to bigger and better things. I think he moved to Queens, I believe.
He did, yes.
I always get those fucking, boroughs sometimes confused because Brooklyn's like the hipster one, and then Queens is like the never mind. So
another crazy stat is a team that didn't win and got in the playoffs. Crazy work, but
that doesn't count. Listen, that's not good.
That was crazy, and they made it to the second round. How do you? Yeah, like all right. I'm gonna let
the Renegades got a bye with a winning season,
bro.
We played BIC though. Let's be honest, and not even all of the guys wanted to show up because they were scared. But anyway, that's another tale for down the road.
So R2, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Real quickly. So
no, you're good.
We were talking about Tinder, and then Corey and I and Chris had asked the question of, with the way Tinder played during the playoffs, did he make himself a possible early candidate for next season's MVP? R2, I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think with the way Tinder played in the playoffs, did he give himself a case to be an early candidate for league MVP in 2025?
Oh, for sure. We know now that the Animals, we can't ignore them. Any other time, oh yeah, we see them on the schedule. BTA, belt to ass. We already know what time it is when it comes to the Animals. No, for real though. We knew what time it was. But when David Tender came outside, it was just like, oh, we got to take them serious. Or Devon Epps, that's what his name, old bald head boy, number 14, just jumping out the gym on people.
Yeah.
Manny Diaz out there routing people up. And then they got
Kwani Morgan.
Kwani Morgan for real out there just doing his thing out the backfield. So I think that, and I know for a fact that they're going to reload, and Tender coming out there, he laser focused, bro. So I do think that not only his play from last year's playoffs, but his play from the year as a whole will thrust him into that MVP conversation, I feel like.
And to piggyback on that, a question we got from the chat from Jordan.
What question was that?
We'll call him Vitamin A. Can the Animals win the Northeast, RT?
No. They're not ready yet. They're not ready yet. Because you got a bunch of... I'm sorry, did I cut y'all off? I didn't mean to straight start going crazy. My bad,
No, you're good. You're good.
But
go ahead.
I asked you a question, you answered it. I think that's fair.
I feel like right now they're not ready because, number one, they came in last year with a rookie team almost. They had a couple vets on the team, and a couple vets stepped up. But when they played them hard teams like the Watchmen, they played them tough teams, the BIC. They hung in there. They scored points.
That's the way to say it. They scored points,
but
they allowed 80.
Yeah, and that's the only thing, because think about it now. Like, imagine if the Animals had a solid defense. Oh my God! Now this is a different story. It is a very different story now. So, I do think that his play, yes, I do think that he can be talked about. Heck, man, listen, some people will go far to say he can be talked about being in the MVP conversation this year because the things old boy did, the games he's had, bro, he had a whole bunch of Heisman highlights this year. Like he was making something out of nothing, and he made it look easy, and he
Now,
played hurt.
now let me ask you, gentlemen, this question. Now, what will it take for the Animals in 2025 to possibly make their way into that BIC Watchman U tier? What has to transpire for that to happen for the Animals in 2025?
Okay, you want me to go or you want to go, Corey?
Whoever wants to go first.
It don't matter.
Listen, I think it's a little early to do can they, but I think we just said it for the Animals specifically. They need to get a pass rush, and if they can solidify a little bit more their offensive line so that they can have a consistent running game, and it's not just go and spread, David Tender just makes shit happen. Mm-hmm. I think the stress that they put on Tender as a playmaker, he won't be spread as thin and be asked to do so much, because as great as he was asked to do basically Herculean feats. He was asked to do Herculean feats, drive in, drive out to even stay in games. And that's when trying to do too much, he would, at times turn the ball over. And when you're in a close game, or you're trying to beat the Watchmen, or you're trying to beat BIC in the playoffs, those turnovers were kind of the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the defense needs to get better, but if they can consistently run the ball more, Kwani Morgan, I mean, give the guy more touches, and he could be maybe, on our best backs list right now. You give him an offensive line, he's probably up there. Right next to RTC and the ability he has.
Well, we already know what he did.
Didn't he score 3 times?
He scored a ton of times.
Yeah, and not to mention what he also did on the 3-on-1 against BIC, which was very hard to do against the BIC on an untimed down.
He did head to the Washington.
Yeah, he did. He was balling. Like, I mean, look, the dude got the ball in his hands and he was making plays from the beginning of the season. So, all right. Well, I think. Let me
say a little something on that question, Corey.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I think we should move on to our list.
All right, that's bet. That's cool. I think that for them to be in the top conversation, I think that they do have to have defense. If y'all not gonna get a pass rush, y'all need to get secondary. I think that y'all should control the ball more, because if your defense ain't going to be, they're not going to jump from last to first overnight. You know what I mean? So if y'all can control the ball more, control the clock more against these high-powered teams for real, I think that'll have a lot more success. And like Corey said, just to piggyback off of what he said, the turnovers. If you can cut down on them turnovers for real and keep that high-powered offense off the field, they're going to have a chance. But that defense got to go out there and bend but never break. But, in this league, you out here getting 50 dropped on you every week, but your offense scoring, that's cool. Apparently, I don't know.
Well, until you lose, right?
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Yeah, and I think that kind of puts a button on the other side of the ball's coverage of the Animals, the Silk City Animals, which is interesting. Sorry, all of my Vegas guys out there, but we actually have Ohio in the chat, Florida in the chat. So this is becoming a national show. And that's why we brought in a Maryland specialist, an assassin in the media. So let's kind of shift gears. You talked about the quarterbacks, talked about some of those things, RTU, and maybe we'll get a chance to kind of go over some of the returners list. But I think after last week going over the kind of the offensive kind of anchor in the quarterback, who's the quarterback's biggest nemesis most times? No, not the D-backs. Those guys are going against the wide. It's the defensive line and then linebackers who, in our A7FL 2024 other side of the ball, top 50, and then we're separating into top sevens. We kind of grouped the linebackers and defensive line. And now I'll be honest, guys, when we look at defensive linemen in this league, there's a lot of talent. This list is not based on specifically talent, Although, let's just kind of go into some of the honorable mentions, right? And RTU, you had a couple of guys. I talked to you on the phone earlier today. You had a couple of guys that you mentioned would be among the top guys you consider. What are some of your maybe honorable mentions that you know are worthy of the shout out, but may or may not make the final list?
Okay, so guys that a lot of people don't know about is a guy that played for the DC Buzz. He had 410 on his jersey. His name is James Carter. You know, we don't have a lot of film down here on him, but old boy was having like 4 sacks a game. Like he was killing. You know, he's another one. Calvin Lamback is another one. Kyle Bone for guys who know him. Freight Train, number 8, Terrell Barks, Randy Rice, and a lot of underrated defensive tackle that a lot of people don't talk about is Keel Lane, and he plays for the Watchmen. If y'all just watch film, he is a dominant force in the middle, and he ain't no real big guy. You know, we seen a lot of guys get put down by Dave Valley.
Yes, we have.
Yes,
Correct.
Yes,
you know,
some of the best guys in our league.
Yes, you know, yes. And Dave Valley didn't get the best of him. He might have blocked him, but they was stalemating in the middle every time. It wasn't like Dave Valley was just driving him, taking him to the sideline. No, they was a stalemate. Like, that was a good matchup, but a lot of dudes, you know, they don't know Kill because he's not one of those dudes that's out there talking on the board. He don't do that. He's really a solid assassin. So that's kind of some of the Baltimore dudes that I know about, you know, some of the honorable mentions for me.
Well, and I think Baltimore dudes, if we're just going to go straight guys that are from Baltimore, I think one of the guys that you know is always somebody to mention. When I talk, I went to the stats department just to make sure that I wasn't, you know, just being biased with guys that, you know, I either played with or, you know, obviously we could easily put Megatron on this list. I don't think anybody would disagree. But when you look at Dondre's stats, I you know, he has so many stats across the board and he does so many things. I think he'll be on the list at a different position. We'll see which one because he plays so many, or you know, guys that I play with. But Baltimore guy stands out. You look at that BIC defensive front. Bone, Queso Harris, or whatever we want. I'm not going to say his government. But Bone, not Cal Bone, but the original Bone, always a threat. I also talked to Chick Amir Morris today, and one of the guys he said that stood out to him, this is a PA guy. Now, I don't think he makes the list because he didn't play enough, but Keith, you'll remember this name. Tyler Affa. Baller.
Oh, my Lord.
Former Immortals player. He got to me a bunch of times when I was on BIC. He played for BIC, which is funny, this year, and especially in the championship game. And even though he kind of been off from the league for a while, the Immortals have I've been calling the Immortals the Insomniacs because they kind of like replaced each other. That's how long it's been. But when I was talking to Amir Chick Morris, he mentioned a bunch of guys that are on the list, but that was one guy he wanted to mention. But also Nick Mays, again, Baltimore guy, played for the U. Listen, just an absolute monster, and I think he might make a different list as a utility player too, because he's also one of the better tight ends in this league. But that's kind of some of my honorable mentions. Dub, who do you got as honorable mentions, maybe from the other side of the ball?
Well, I'll actually go first. I'll actually go Trey Brooks from the Heist in Ohio, which the games that I watched the Heist, he was always in on every play on defense.
Actually, I agree with that 100%. Yep. I definitely forgot about him.
Hey,
I definitely forgot about him.
Can I say something real fast?
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Did we forget about Seth Chambers?
No, but what team did he play for, Keith?
He played for a green team.
He used to last year, but this is, and we're basing this not on talent. We're basing this on the season they had. He actually was on the Chaos roster last year. So that's a dog. He's a baller, right? Like it's that meme of that high school kid. Seth Chambers, dog, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Seth Chambers fits that mold, and I think he will always be a guy that we mention as one of the better players. But as far as like watching the tape, there was a different defensive lineman that for me. What's up, CP3? Top defensive linemen / linebackers in the A7FL. I'd love to hear from CP3. Great quarterback, one of the best playmakers in the history of the league. When you watch his film, come at don't at me, bro. But also an opinionated guy in himself. We might have to RTU. We might have to get CP3 on here.
No
in
doubt,
your
man.
spot in some of these upcoming shows. But
for sure.
So you got an Ohio guy, Dub. Who else you got as far as like honorable mentions?
Well, of course, my guy, the Wolverine, Mr. Freeman. Can't forget about him. That's my guy. Obviously, he has played this game for a long time. Has played at a very high level. And my third guy, and I'll be a homer, even though he was plagued by injuries most of the year, but still can't forget about AJ Quigg, who wants people to run to his side, run to his side, run to his side. But those would be my three honorable mentions. Try to go all across the league, one from the East, one from the West, and of course one near the West Coast. So that's those would be my three honorable mentions.
If AJ don't make it, he got to be on the list. Honorable mention. Oh boy, been a force for 2 straight years.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I agree.
I'll play semantics when we get there. What I will say is, again, I talked to Amir Chick-Morris today, and another guy that he mentioned, and he said that I know he's not. He said that Spanish-looking dude from the Insomniacs. What's his name? Right now, I think AJ McQuaig is not a Hispanic person. So
he might be. He might be an Oos. He might be.
I'm pretty sure he's I'm pretty sure he's probably Hawaiian. But I'll ask you this question, Dub. As far as based on our criteria for this season, and we talked about this in previous shows, just to put in context for the people that are joining us. And do we have a fridge sighting? Willie Perry?
That's Willie Perry from OTT.
I know,
bro. I was looking at that earlier. He had the blue check next to his name and all that. I got to having to look like, hold on, bro. Hold on, who is that?
I think, and what number does AJ wear? Number 20, right?
20, AJ wears 20. No,
okay. So that's
CP3. The ski mask dude that you're talking about is Mac Cannon. He wears number 30 on the Insomniacs.
Oh, Cannon,
Cannon.
He's
Cannon
more
wears
like a return
Cannon wears the ski mask.
Specialist. Yeah.
Yes, he ain't that. He ain't that. I know exactly who he is, but he ain't that.
He's good though. Don't bro, do not blaspheme my guy Cannon for knowing his role on a championship team and taking care of business when he's asked to do it.
I mean, that is fact, but you know what I mean? I just felt like, you can't be out there popping starter shit when you won't get no special teams. But all right.
Well, Willie Perry, actually, Matt Ryan calls him Murtaugh, right? From this is an old reference for people who don't know Lethal Weapon. But that's a defensive lineman as well, but also a quarterback. He's thrown he's thrown more touchdowns to Savion Cunningham than I have. That's for sure. Now I only had a few opportunities, but anyway, so all right, so those are some of our honorable mentions. Now let's get into the list. Now to start, guys, I cheated. Okay. CP3 asked questions.
He is. He wants to know.
Stay tuned. CP, I'll tell you. The question is, we'll have a show. We'll have a talk, my friend. We'll have a talk. So for the defensive line guys, linebackers this season, I'm going to put it up to the chat for number 7. Number 7. Because I wanted to include an Ohio guy. Okay. But at the same time, I also wanted to give somebody credit for just being an all-around monster when he is called upon. Now, my number 7, and you could see this in the group chat, guys, that I sent to you. I have a slash. So in the comments, I want the guys watching live and also fans that watch later on as you catch this maybe later on in the week, maybe after Halloween, because everybody's preparing their costume right now. Guys, if you look at my little thing over here for Halloween. I'm going to be an over 500 player this year. That'll be fun.
Wherever podcasts are sold.
So for my number 7, guys, I have a slash, and let's let the comments decide who's the official. From Ohio, from the Chaos, it wasn't Seth Chambers that stood out to me. It was Javi Grace, number 90. Now, he's not your speed rusher, athletic defensive end, and he's not your, defensive tackle, Big Burton from the U. He's kind of in the middle, but what he does have is a motor, and he's in on every play for the Chaos defense, which is one of the standout defensive units by statistics, if you look across the league. Now, say what you want about the competition that they play, but Javi Grace is one of my guys at number 7, and the other guy might be a familiar name, and it might be a sore subject because we just talked about A.J. McQuaig and last year how, even in my opinion, he got snubbed for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes.
I voted for him, by the way, just to be clear. And maybe because I'm friends with this guy, even though he always has a fucking amazing game head-to-head against me. What a fucking asshole. Trey Baskerville, number 7. So, chat.
Look
Comments.
at RTU's reaction.
Bro, listen.
Bro, what?
Let's talk about that.
All right,
Trey
first of all,
Baskerville.
shut the fuck up before I finish and then go. But chat, because I have to do the engagement thing. RTU, you're a pro at this. You know how this works. Chat, you tell me, who's your number 7 of the two? Javi Grace from the Chaos or Trey Baskerville from You Already Snow Tribe? But
what if they
RTU,
don't even
what's
know
your
who
take?
Javi is?
Then they're gonna. It's a favoritism context anyway. They put it in the chat, and then it helps the algorithm. Stop fucking with the shit, bro. Now, what's your take? What's your take, RTU, to help our commenters kind of parse this out?
So I feel like when what the hell is this on the middle of the screen? Are we on break?
No, this is called passion.
Okay. So I feel like this, man. Last year, when old boy Trey Baskerville, he had a breakout season. And I feel like that was because when you got Megatron on the other side, that makes your job a lot easier. He went to Snow Tribe this year, and you didn't hear from him. He didn't even do his dance. He only did that shit probably like 1-2 times this year. So I'm not trying to hear that bullshit. And if you want to, Corey, we could sit down together and watch every Snow Tribe game. The boy was not there, bro. You feel me?
Yeah.
His production.
Yeah, except for against me, bro. He had 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, an interception, which is fucking insane, that asshole, and a touchdown. So
But that's just one game. We can't just, oh, you had a good game this one game, you're thrust. No, bro, you disappeared.
No, he had 8 sacks in the year. He's one of the top sack guys. And if you look at, and first of all, shout out to Cole Gardella and our stats. And I want to just do a quote from Cole Gardella just to give our fans something to, I guess specifically laugh about. So when I was asking Cole who he would kind of put, at least, from nobody's out to get me. Everybody loved every single word that I said in the championship game specifically. Anyway,
that's why championship points matter.
No, for real.
Listen, that is a good call by everyone on the panel, but I knew when to shut up and when to actually speak that time. Here's a quote from Cole when I asked him, hey, who are some of the best D linemen guys? Here's the quote. Anyone that sacked Corey is a winner in my book, because obviously he lost every game this year. And that's from Cole Gardella, our stats guy. So shout outs to Cole.
Unbelievable.
We're gonna reference some of his stats as we go on later in this list. So Keith, who would you say of those two guys? Now that's your Trey Baskerville take. Would you? So you would slide Javi Grace in there at number 7?
That's tough because I'm gonna be honest with you. For me, I've heard very little of this Javi Grace. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. When I try to watch Ohio, but they just so ass as a state to me.
Oh my god!
I don't even, bro. It's just like, you got
so then why would a watch would lose and when the game ended? No, I'm not gonna get into that.
Hey, listen.
I'm not gonna get into that. Let's not talk about it. Let's not rehash that nonsense.
All right,
everybody was to blame for that.
I just feel like I'm gonna be honest with you. I just feel like from the production Trey Baskerville had last year and this year is definitely two different things. You know, when you're the main guy now, you get that main guy attention, and he didn't deliver. This dude Javi, I don't really know him, but in the same token, when I think of Ohio, I think of nothing like your ass. The whole city is ass. Like they're not gonna win it. They're gonna be the doormat for the fucking league for the next few years, bro. I told them this shit a long time ago. I said, listen, what you need to do is put a couple guys, all y'all main guys on one roster. That's how y'all gonna compete. Y'all still gonna get your ass.
So what Baltimore did the last 2 seasons?
Yes, but the only thing is, Baltimore didn't have to do that though. You feel me? They did it last year, but you had the Gators, you had the Vikings. You feel me? You had teams in Baltimore that can compete.
Baltimore had an A7FL national championship that was Baltimore versus Baltimore.
That is fact.
There was 2 teams were the top 2 teams.
That is fact. In Ohio, you would never see that. You would never have 2 Ohio teams in the championship.
Listen, Keith, I understand where you're coming from.
So
the Chaos were a better team than they were the previous year. Period. And that's empirical data says it. My eye test told me as I watched it. And the Heist got better. Look at how their game looked against the U. Not an embarrassing outcome there. Some of the other teams that are building up, and they're as a division, they're growing. Now, are they growing at the same rate as Vegas? No. But they are growing, they are getting better, and they are now doing what you're saying because the Chaos no longer exist. So the Heist are getting some of those guys. The Crush are getting some of those guys. We'll see. All right, so that's number 7. And I'd love to hear in the chat, even though I see you guys commenting about, talking shit about me or where I'm going to play, but this is not about Corey Hammond. Although I will talk about myself and the stats that I had all the time. Don't feed into it. Don't feed into my bullshit. Comment to say who you think is better. So number 6 on my list, RTU, is a guy that I think you mentioned earlier. Now, let me be clear for all of these stats. All of the great defensive ends in our league were on teams where they shared time, so they didn't build up the type of like eye-popping stats like AJ McQuaid had last year with 25 regular season sacks.
Damn.
Which is why he should have won.
Jesus.
Yeah, which is why he should have won
Defensive
Player of the Year. No, it's not a record.
Who holds the record for the most sacks?
Oh,
what?
Probably somebody in some ridiculous
question.
division where everyone sucked and whatever. But number 6, based on big plays, based on his consistency, Calvin Lambeck, Cal Bone from the Watchmen.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned guys on that defensive line that also were contributors and were, kind of some of the reason his stats don't necessarily stand out in comparison to some of the other guys that are later on in this list. Guys, number 2 is crazy, but I couldn't keep him off the list because every single week he would remind us where he was in the stats. And I was like, yeah, I guess I can't continue to try to clown you. But Calvin Lambeck, defensive end. Now, what is he? 6'4", 260, tall, kind of lanky. He plays with a low center of gravity, but he is relentless to the football.
Yes, he's a motor.
And he is one of the key guys on that Watchmen defense that forces turnovers, whether it's getting a hand in the face of the quarterback and forcing an errant pass or those strip sacks that he's kind of known for. Look, for a team in the Watchmen that didn't have Bone or Nick Mays on the defensive line, it was not their defensive line that struggled. I think when we talk about, their offensive line, even though they have great offensive linemen, losing one guy to the U specifically, we'll talk about that later on in these episodes in a couple of weeks coming up. That was the side of the trenches that I think lost more. But when you take away a Nick Mays and a Bone, for having Cal Bone there, and no one will ever confuse the guys when they're standing next to each other, Calvin Lambeck to me is my number 6 defensive linebacker of the 2024 season. Dub, Keith, thoughts?
Well, I don't got nothing, no gripe with you on there for real. Only thing I don't agree with is I think the Watchmen D lineman took more of a loss than that O lineman because you got the departure of Nick Mays and Bone, which are 2 good pieces. Then you got the departure of Reese that went to the U, which is a good piece. So I think that, you know what I mean, that D line might have took a hit, but I ain't got nothing else to say, bro. I think that you're spot on with it, bro. Cal Bone is well deserving. And every team Cal Bone has been on, he's been a force. You know what I mean? Like, he's been a dominant force. You know what I mean? Some games he might be out there doing his job, and some games he might do his job to the best of his ability. But I agree, bro. So I'm gripes here.
Well, and my thing, my take on the Watchmen was not that they didn't lose a lot of great players from their defensive line, but you said it in the honorable mention section is who they actually put in those spots. I think that they filled in the roster for that group of guys better than they did, trying to replace just kind of, I think, Mo Taylor's one offensive lineman that they lost.
Okay.
But because he was such a focal point and kind of the vocal leader and the leader at kind of like, we'll say, the center position for that line, that's just my take there.
I agree with you. I agree.
Dub, any Cal Bone stuff? Or you want to move on to 4
No,
and 5?
I love his motor. His motor is relentless. And I mean, you could say that about a lot of these guys on this list about how relentless their motor is because, again, there's players that have intangibles and you can't coach that, but you also, you either have it or you don't. You can't coach a motor. You either have it or you don't. And, I mean, Calvin's got a tremendous motor, which is why he's a very key cog on his team's defensive lineman, trying to contain the offense from not scoring. So it's very solid. Very, very solid.
And so my number 4 and 5, guys, kind of tie into each other, and you'll see. But I'm going to start the number 5 conversation by kind of putting into context what we're really going for here on this 2024 top 7 DL/LBs of the season. Not of their ability, not an all-decade team, not, who are we going to draft to beat the Insomniacs, based on what they did this season. So, Dub, you know better than anybody the Insomniacs defensive line. And like I said, AJ McQuaig, one of the best players on his team, likely, right? And especially at that position.
Correct.
I would make the pseudo argument that just based on the output of this season, that there were 2 guys more crucial to their defensive line than he was this season. One of them being RTC, which is not going to be on this list because he's going to be the number 1 at a different position. Do you think that the other guy that I have here at number 5 had a better season than AJ McQuaig did because he missed time and wasn't able to get the output that we are familiar with him?
Well, look at it like this, okay? And he's talking about Chris Cunningham from the Insomniacs.
Number 5.
Number 80. But I'll say it like this. Chris Cunningham basically stepped in and took the Chris McWilliams position that AJ and Chris were back in 2023 because, as I said, when I said last year, when you're playing the Insomniacs on defense, you got to know where 20 is, AJ's number, and you got to know where 10 is, Chris's number. Of course, Chris, unfortunately, suffered the injury at Fall Brawl, in a sense, became the D-line coach, and then here comes Cunningham basically taking Chris's spot and being that number 2 to AJ's 1 up the middle on that defensive line. Now again, Cunningham stepped up tremendously when AJ was plagued by the shoulder injury that he had, and he missed about a couple of weeks. And I mean, Cunningham's motor is relentless. You saw that against BIC as him and D-Rock Shuford were chasing down Sterry, which is a very tough task to do. For 60 minutes.
In the pre championship episode, I did not think that was going to be possible. I respected his game going in. I did not think he could chase down Sterry Codrington, and he did a great job at that position.
I'll just say like this: he definitely left it on the field because he was just bent over, just tired. Because, like I said, trying to chase Sterry for 60 minutes is no tall task. I mean, you got to have a lot of stamina, a lot of fluids, IVs, whatever you got to do to not get cramps. But I mean, just Cunningham, a quiet man, humble man, does whatever the coaching staff asks him to do, and he just goes in there and does it. Now, I'm curious to see how, if Chris decides to come back and play in 2025, just this rotation up front of AJ, Chris, and Cunningham. I just want to see how it pays out up front for the Insomniacs in 2025.
I'll tell you who's not curious to see that, or at least not looking forward to seeing that, is quarterbacks in the Vegas division.
What about McCorkle?
Well, he's a baller.
I know. I already know.
Again, statistically, and the amount that he had, like the amount that he played,
Yeah, it wasn't
relatively
enough.
limited. So he
Okay.
again, when you watch Scott play, whether it's in the fall for the Kryptonite, kind of his intro to the league, or when he was last year's championship round when he was on the serial Hemers playing flag, kind of trying to get back into game shape because he had the injury. He had a hernia, I think it was.
Correct.
And then this season, kind of, kind of easing back into it, playing for the Insomniacs, playing well, right? He's a similar kind of guy that, as a hobby grace, the Chris Cunningham, the high motor, more athletic than you think, extremely strong. But I think the reason,
and smarter than you think, which I try to tell him, stop selling yourself short. Of course, Sky is my guy. He also joins me in the booth.
Well, you guys Pavlov dogged him with the bell every time you guys crack up over butt jokes. He just can't hold himself back from it. But
he can't help himself. He can't help himself. But
he can't help himself anyway. Look, if you follow him on Facebook, you know that his mind isn't far from the gutter at any moment. Shout outs to the Vikings, Scott McCorkle, Bjorn Skarsgård. We'll stop using your fake name, by the way.
From Asgard.
But my contention would be for my number 5 spot, I put in Chris Cunningham because when you look at the defensive linemen for the Insomniacs, AJ McQuaig might be the best talent. As far as having the best 2024 season, I would argue because he missed the time and because Cunningham was able to kind of step into that role, he's the one that's on this list, which also piggybacks nicely into our
number 4.
Well, this gentleman made his debut during the fall brawl, and Scott McCorkle, as aforementioned, he talked about watch this young man play who is built like a Greek god. Good Lord. Of course, we're talking about Jeremy Dark Kent Reeves, also of the Insomniacs, who definitely was a stable up the middle. Went sideline to sideline, has a tremendous motor, and is an extremely strong young man, and definitely helped complement Cunningham when AJ was not there. It was a huge compliment when Chris McWilliams was not there. And it's very tough to run the Insomniacs to begin with because, of course, you got AJ and you got Cunningham. And if you somehow get through there, you have big number 15 just waiting to say hello, how you doing? But, a tremendous motor, rookie season, obviously paid huge dividends in helping the Insomniacs repeat as champions. The impact, you saw the impact he made on the field. Like I said, the man was involved almost in every play, sideline to sideline. Oh, he can also pick off the ball too. But again, he's just one of those guys to where plug him in wherever, whatever he needs to do, whatever's for the betterment of the team. That's what he is. Also, another quiet assassin. Really doesn't have to say much. He lets his play speak for itself on the field.
Well, and he's the first linebacker on this list. Now, I know he plays on the line of scrimmage as a pass rusher sometimes, and he's versatile. But he also was the answer to the question, what are the Insomniacs going to do losing Tone Smith? And I think Tone Smith deserves an honorable mention on being on this list for the Force this year.
Agreed.
Not the Insomniacs. But Reeves kind of jumps off the film too. So when you ask Coach James about his defense, this was one of the names that he talked about. When I talked to Derek Duncan today, asking politely if RTU could come on. So there you go, RTU. But
Appreciate you, Derek.
When I talked to Derek today, he was one of the guys that he mentioned right away. And I think rightfully so, because when you look at the Insomniacs, they have a lot of talent, right? They have a lot of talent at the corner position. I'm sure we're going to talk about those guys. They even have Packer playing safety, in the A7FL, that safety linebacker position is kind of, commutable,
the hybrid.
And Packer is known not necessarily for his elite coverage ability, which, look, he gets interceptions and he's no slouch. But he's known more for kind of being in the box and making people pay for it. So he kind of falls into along those lines. And at defensive line, even. No, Robert Ramsey. No, my bad. QC, my bad. We can get other guys honorable mention, but that's why we have such an intellectual chat, is so that you can help us with things that we aren't.
But the But the Ramseys, Robert and Keith, definitely both are deserving of an honorable mention for sure.
And didn't we honorable mention them for returners because they're
Yes.
yeah. So
yes.
we mentioned them. Let's be fair, right? We definitely mentioned them. So when we're talking about the Insomniacs defense, the one position I don't think that they have, a ton of depth at is the position that Reeves was able to, walk into, solidify himself, and kind of make his name known throughout the division, throughout the country. And I think at number 4, he definitely deserves to be on this list, and I like him at that spot, which would bring us to our
number 3.
And this one is a tough one, guys, because when we talk about some of the defensive lines in this league, one of the best units is what the BIC brought to the table as far as list of names on the roster.
Correct.
I mean, let's just break it the fuck down, right? They had an Immortals running back, Charles Irvin. Now, if you know the A7FL, you know that guy's a potential 2,000-yard rusher. Well, he decided he wanted to take it out on guys like me and play defensive end with that low center of gravity, that elite agility and speed. And he's just an overall monster at 230, at like 5'10", 230, playing defensive end. That's demon time shit. Then we already mentioned Tyler Affa, who wasn't there for every single game, but is also a monster. And then the list goes on to the point where a standout for 2023, Verardi, was not even really mentioned among guys like what's the guy who caught the ball's name? RTU. Big Mook. Mook.
That was somebody I was gonna say because Big Mook, his playoff run, legendary.
Well, 2 years ago,
yes.
or last year, bro. I saw him hawk down in the championship game. I think it was fucking like it was one of the speedy guys, and he's hawking down like as a defensive lineman, weighing probably a solid 280. Hawking down people that run 4.3 speed, and that's just a sure violence and will. But when you talk about the BIC defensive line, there's so many names on it that statistically those guys didn't necessarily stand out because they were rotating. They're all of that talent level, and when you have that much talent on one line, it's hard for guys to stand out because it's almost like a race to the ball. But I will say the guy that did stand out based on his offense, his touchdown performance, as well as his consistent like level of just excellence, Olajuwon Ole Bell from BIC. And look, is it a Lifetime Achievement Award? No, because he balled out last year. But I think you'd be hard-pressed to have anybody disagree. And like I said, for the third time, I talked to Amir Morris, chick, who was fucking Chris's number 1 draft pick when we were trying to stop the Insomniacs. I said, who of the D lineman guys? And he kind of agreed with me that Ole Bell was the guy that kind of stood out among a whole bunch of guys that deserve to be mentioned. So for me, number 3, 2024 defensive line linebackers, Ole Bell. And I would argue, and I would probably be right, the all-time leader in sacks in this league's history. And it's probably not even close.
Some might say he might be or was the calming presence in the huddle for the BIC during this past season. Would that be a far reach?
He's definitely one of those guys that has a leadership role because he just does it, he does it with an example. But I think when Ole's on the field, he's able to do so much more than I think his frame would say that he should be capable of. That it just leaves no room for anybody else on the field to do anything less but give their 120%. Because we talk about the talent level of guys, which is fine, but most of the guys that are on this list based on statistical output, it's that motor. Ole's kind of the guy that fits both roles because at that 5'10", 230, his leverage and that low center of gravity as like a high school, like elite level high school and low level college wrestler where he's able to get around that corner and get that bend around any defensive lineman to get that, get that rush on the quarterback, but also his ability to stand there and make the play on the run. He's not just like a single use guy. And he has touchdowns. He had an interception, I think, last year. To me,
against the Watchmen,
I didn't want to put it out there. But he's just a baller. And I think he deserves all the credit in the world. And Ole Bell,
Number 3.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Ole is definitely a deserving guy, man. Ole has been, I will go on and say he has been, since he's played, he's been the most consistent. I don't think Ole has had an off season. And if he did, he probably wasn't even playing. But since I've seen Ole and known Ole, he's been a consistent, dominant force. Year in and year out, it don't matter what team you put him in. It don't matter what situation you put him in. He's going to thrive every time.
I've seen him play corner and succeed. But that was just in a fall, and just a reminder to everybody that fall don't count. Not that it isn't fun to watch or it isn't something that you should take part in. Just to be clear.
Yeah, we always
just don't be counting those fucking championships as national champions. At least New Jersey doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that will bring us.
They don't out here. They don't.
No, I know. I'm just referencing somebody saw that New Jersey. Somebody saw from the Vegas division that the New Jersey guys wanted to start up a fall again because it's fun, and nobody said it wasn't fun. And the conversation was, I thought you guys said fall doesn't count, and then Rob, specifically Big Rob Fabian, shout out to my guy, clarified. No, it doesn't count. That doesn't mean we don't want to play it, but
it don't count. But we still play.
The Maryland fall brawls have actually been insane. And I never had a chance to drive down and do that. Again, we mentioned how many kids I have, but that'll segue very awkwardly. Oh, go ahead. Oh, 5. I thought you were saying hold up. No, but you were just putting up the number. It is the same. So that will segue very awkwardly into our
Number 2.
And I will ask you guys, without looking at the list, and maybe Dub, you've already looked at the list. Who do you think had the most recorded? Now, I don't know if this is official because we're just going by crazy numbers from around the league. Who had the most recorded sacks in the league last year, guys?
Isaac
Negron. From the U, 10 sacks on the season, the leading statistical, we'll say, sack boy. We'll call him a sack specialist. We'll call him somebody who pays attention very well to the sack. Nobody paused me? Come on, you guys are no fun.
Bro.
Rob would have already. No, never mind. I'm sure.
Bro.
Right. So Isaac Negron, who, if you just kind of like went by eye test, you might have been like, come on.
Yeah, real shit.
Two years ago, the defensive player of the year, you're going to just throw him out there because he goes from Snow Tribe and he's back on the – no, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, he was one of the most dominant forces on the defensive side of the ball in the entire league.
And when he got
and you know how I know this? You know how I know this so intimately, guys?
He probably
every week – that's everybody in the league. So that's why Trey Basketball.
What happened to the Mookie Betts hit that the first baseman?
Man, fuck Mookie Betts. He doesn't play for Boston anymore. I don't care about the Dodgers. Baseball's whack. Who's watching baseball? Come on, the Giants are out of it, right? Right, Dub? You want to watch the Yankees? Fucking, I didn't even know Juan Soto was over.
The Yankees. And my team is even worse than Baltimore. We the best regular season team. Get to the playoff fumble every fucking time.
No, you just recently got good again in the regular season because you used to be in the freaking worst teams in the league.
Trash. I know, trash. No, a couple years back we was
like a decade ago when you had the center fielder and Wieters was the catcher. His name was Adam Jones, right? The center fielder.
Yeah,
anyway.
but we just
baseball sucks. Listen. Go watch baseball so you can fall asleep early if you have something to do important in the morning. Shut the fuck up about baseball. So whoever's talking about Mookie Betts, like we could catch it on SportsCenter and see every major play in a baseball game in 13 seconds.
Number 1, that was my mom because she.
Oh, your mom's allowed. Your
Oh
mom's
yeah,
left. Your mom's
OG's the
left.
mom. Yeah, that's moms. Yeah, OG.
No, she came in and was asking why Garrett Cole did not cover first base on a routine ground ball that should have been out the inning. But that's a whole
Because he
nother
gets
story.
paid $70 million
Damn.
a year. Why would he do his job? He plays
Mom
for the
knows her
Yankees.
shit. Mom knows her shit.
Oh yeah, she does when
He
it comes
does,
to
yeah.
baseball. Yes.
Listen, Garrett Cole was a World Series pitcher until he got a $300 million deal. And then how could you even show up to work seriously anymore and work hard? He's like a fat cat immediately. That's
Real
the
shit.
problem with baseball.
Oh, Joe
Stop paying
Flacco.
these people. Nah, Joe Flacco's balling out instead of.
No, I'm
Anthony
saying he got
Richardson.
that bag for the Ravens and that thing.
First of all, let's just quickly aside. Yo, Anthony Richardson admitted that he just took a play off in an NFL game because he wanted to, like, and I quote, catch his breath.
Listen, that's the end of him right there.
And thus
Crazy.
getting benched by a 5,000-year-old Joe Flacco.
But
And rightfully so. Rightfully so. Get the hell out of here, Anthony Richardson, and just play tight end already.
Nah, for real. That was crazy work. That was crazy.
It's
But
disgusting. You're an NFL quarterback and you're going to take a play off? That's worse than Jamarcus Russell taking a videotape home that was blank and saying he watched film all night.
crazy. And then you admitted it. I would have lied my ass off. Oh, no,
I would have been like, I would have never gone out of the game, and I have zero talent.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is what it is. But
let's be honest. Nobody deserves an I'll try award less than Anthony friggin' Richardson, who got drafted because he made like highlight plays for Florida, like like an almost losing record.
1 year wonder.
Good for you. Good for you, Indianapolis Colts, for drafting a guy that like that. And that's why Andrew Luck retired, because he said this organization absolutely sucks. And the only thing good about it is the memes from Jim Irsay after he gets arrested. Number 2 is Isaac Negron, the statistically best defensive lineman in the league.
Okay.
And
So
the top, and listen, he's the top defensive lineman on this list, guys.
So who's number 1? That's
Leaving our
number one.
Uno.
And RTU, Keith Salmons. If I could let you guess who the number 1 defensive player in the year, with the hint that he's not a defensive lineman, who would you think is our number 1 on this list?
He's not a defensive lineman, so that got to mean he's a linebacker.
That is correct. That is a correct deduction, Sherlock Holmes.
Is this guy an athlete at linebacker?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Is he an athlete? Like Swiss Army knife, you can move him all around, or he's just linebacker defensive end? D line.
I mean, we literally talked about him playing a very important offensive position earlier in the podcast.
Oh, Nick Mays, for sure.
No. It's not. It's not Nick Mays. Who also, but he's not a linebacker. He's the defensive end.
Okay.
I mean, he's athletic as hell, but I would say the position we all know this man for, and Buck knows him, right? Buck knows him probably better than most guys intimately, based on that play that we referenced earlier. He's a linebacker.
Henderson.
Number one.
Let me give y'all how I understood who Henderson was. A couple years ago, when the DC Buzz went down to Florida and we got fucking stomped, this black guy.
All right, let's be fair. You guys put up like 30 on them.
Yeah, we put up 38. It was 38 to like 52.
Mark Diggs was out there diming up their defense. Let's be fair.
Yeah. But we still got fucked up. But hey,
you lost by 30 still, but you put up 30. So let's be clear.
Hey, that's crazy, Corey. You lost by 30, but put up by 30 when the score was 30 to 52. I'm gonna need you to do that math, good fella.
I'm rounding up and down and helping your team sound better. So I don't.
Hey, listen, it don't matter how. We was ass, bro.
Yeah, but when it's 52, listen. It's pretty close to 60. That's approximately
no bullshit.
30.
Hey, all right, we'll leave it at that. But this guy was playing defensive end. So once we realized, like, oh boy, he's a tackling machine, we start going the other way, and they put him right at linebacker. Then they beat us, right?
No hiding from that motherfucker.
Yeah, hey, listen.
There's nowhere to hide. There is nowhere to hide from the.
I will never forget this conversation, bro. So I'm on the way up there. So when that game over, us DC Buzz telling the watchman, hey boy, you gotta watch out for this boy. I looked my homeboy dead in his face. I said, listen, they got this dude on defense. He is a tackling machine. This guy looked at me. We're gonna put up 50 on him, and he hit the hell out of Buck. He snatched his fucking soul right then and there. And I look at my homeboy.
The rare breed Nightcrawlers game in Delaware.
Yes, he fucking tore Buck ass in half in that middle. Pause, no Diddy. He fucked him up in the middle of that field. You feel me? He fucked bro up in the middle of that field. And listen, I looked my man dead in his eyes and I said, I fucking told you who he was. Once y'all go away from him, they're gonna put him right at linebacker and he gonna be gunning everybody down. Everybody.
Answer this question, because the play you're talking about, I think it was the Elite 8 game, rare breed,
Nightcrawler,
Tampa Bay Nightcrawlers, Delaware. That was the famous Pack Money. It was we'll call that a Baltimore special-ish, right? Whatever. After that hit on Buck, who at the time in that game at the time, Buck was having a relatively good to great performance in that game.
Facts.
After that hit, how in your opinion, how did Buck play for the rest of that game after Deontay Henderson snatched the soul out his body?
Okay, well, you can tell that bro felt it. One thing I can say about Buck is one of the toughest.
Oh, no one's questioning his toughness. He did not miss a snap that game.
But you can tell when he got hit, he didn't get up immediately. He didn't pop back up. Oh, I'm ready to go. He felt that. You feel me? And I felt like now he understood they have a guy like we have a guy that's gonna put fear. Yeah.
When you run about a 5'9", you ain't running anymore with Deontay Henderson patrol. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I felt like that changed his game to play a little bit more cautious. Like, okay, not cautious like scared. No, that don't run in his veins. I know my boy. But now he knows if I step out this pocket, I know who I need to look for.
But would you say, because my contention, my opinion would be is that he did not play as well after that post hit as he did pre-hit.
Oh yeah. And
I'm not taking anything away from him. I've been in that position, right? When you get hit like that, it's hard to come back from that 100%. Did he get the W? Yes, he did.
Of course, for sure.
But for me, Deontay Henderson, a guy that, and I said this earlier when I drafted him for our team to try to beat the Insomniacs offense, to stop the Insomniacs offense. So Keith and listeners, if you want to check out that episode, I believe it would be 105.
I'm gonna go look at that. I need to go.
Yeah, 105, other side of the ball, #105. That was a fun episode. Great job by Dub and Chris. I don't think we ever found out who the fans thought would be the best defense, or if they could stop the Insomniacs. But anyway, when the person that I go to kind of give my Deontay Henderson take, because obviously I have my opinion, but I do respect the hell out of Ant Live Richardson, who is kind of the de facto defensive coordinator for the Snow Tribe and a champion in this league as kind of the defensive player and coach for BIC before he left for Snow Tribe. He couldn't stop talking about Deontay Henderson in a game where Snow Tribe had to deal with Bagway, Logo, Devon Gray was out there making plays on offense. Ant Live could not stop raving about how much of an absolute monster the linebacker was. And that's Deontay Henderson, who plays sideline to sideline. He plays line of scrimmage to goal line. There is nowhere on the field that you can hide from an absolute defensive monster in Deontay Henderson, our number one DL/LB of the 2024 season. So to recap, we need the chat to determine who 7 is going to be. And the choices are Trey Baskerville, Snow Tribe, Javi Grace, Chaos. Number 6, Calvin Lamback from the Baltimore Watchmen. Number 5, Chris Cunningham, Vegas Insomniacs. Number 4, Jeremy Reeves, linebacker, Vegas Insomniacs. Number 3, Ole Bell, BIC.
Ole!
Number 2, Isaac Negron, and number 1, Deontay Henderson. We have about 5-ish minutes, guys. What do you think about the list? And Would you change it? Would you add? Would you subtract?
Just
Thoughts?
Just seeing.
I would take. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just seeing Devontae Anderson live back in 2023 and just the impact. I mean, you want to talk about the irresistible force and the immovable object. When Henderson and Wilkerson combined forces, and basically it turned into Superman versus Darkseid because all the buildings would collapse. It was just fun to see. Now, I mean, seeing those two bulls going at it in a bull ring, I mean, we'll be there all night because neither is giving an inch. But I mean, just his, and again, we always talk about Motor. He's another guy that can go sideline to sideline, given his his bigger built thick frame. Because not a lot of thick boys can do that. But this is thick boy season. So
look at him. Look at him. The way you said thick, and to be clear, audience, he said thick. Keith, he said thick. Okay.
That's a big boy.
Yo, Dub, go back to 126 in about 10 seconds and listen to your enunciation of thick there. That's why Keith popped up there like a friggin' meme over there. What the fuck did he just say?
No, for real though. But it's cool.
Understand me clearly. There is no Diddy on this show. Let's get that perfectly clear right here, right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was gonna make a joke about Bjorn Skarsgård, but he doesn't even deserve that. Nobody deserves to be compared to that. That is just absolute insanity.
But no,
go ahead.
Just tremendous motor. Goes sideline to sideline. Just a very phenomenal player to watch play on the field. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I would change 7. I would change 7 to James Carter, the dude from the Buzz that I talked to you about. Only reason why he's getting snubbed is because we didn't have the camera crews down here. That's the only reason why I feel like that. Not saying that I don't think Trey Baskerville is deserving to be shouted out, because I still think that he's a top defensive lineman. I just think his play dropped, but he's still deserving. I don't even know who Javier is, so I'm not even going to really say too much on it because my opinion will be a little biased, but I'm going to go with my guy, James. Everything else is correct for me.
All right. And listen, let's be clear. There are a ton of talented guys that could have been on this list instead of some of these guys. Mm-hmm. And to be clear specifically about the Vegas division, I think there's a couple of sick-witted guys that will end up not necessarily on this list, but maybe an offensive line list. Hint, hint. And when you look at the Insomniacs, yes, AJ McQuaig is that guy. But with the parameters of it has to be this year, and AJ kind of had, output-wise at least, a down year in the regular season because, let's be honest, when he's on the field, he's one of the best guys.
Correct.
I will be honest, this was a tough list. That's why, Dub, when I initially started this conversation, I said, hey, you guys want to do DBs? I felt like that would be easier to do. But this is the list. So, fans at home, who did we miss? Who do you got? And with the last minute here, guys, maybe we can end on time here. Parting shots to leave our fans for next week, where we go over the thick boys, offensive line, or if Chris Vera wants to and he's able, we might jump right into wide receivers, guys. So, RTU, parting shot. You got 15 to 25 seconds. Go.
I mean, it is what it is for me. I mean, I'm happy to be here, happy to just kind of see what y'all got going on.
All right, so I'll do RTUs for him because in our conversation, RTU, you said the Virginia Heathens.
Oh, okay.
Eyes emoji.
Okay, so listen.
No, you don't got enough time. We'll catch you back. And if you want more information on the Maryland division, check out RTU on Instagram.
Yes,
Dub,
the real talk you. The real talk you.
No, go ahead, Corey. I'll take us home.
Well, Burrows. Keep the name in mind. Quarterback for the Heathen. Mm-hmm. Dub.
Special thanks, as always, to Corey Hammond for joining us. And a special thanks to RTU for joining us here on episode 109 of The Other Side of the Ball. But before we get out of here, again, coming to you in January of 2025 is the Winter War.
Winter
is coming. And he can make something magical happen here. And there goes the ball. It's going. It's going.
If you're a fan.
Battles will be won. Hold on now.
At the 30, and he
Who's going to take victory?
He's and that's what championship points matter.
It's time for war.
What a blowout,
That was-
right? Keith, wasn't that such a blowout that the Insomniacs beat the PIC with? That was such a lopsided game.
But one more before we say so long for now. If you want to participate and play in the Winter War in Nevada, all you got to do is scan that QR code that you see on your screen right here, right now. It will take you to A7FL.com and it will give you all the information you need if you want to participate. But again, special thanks to everybody for chiming in the comments. Special thanks again to RTU for joining us. For RTU, for Corey Hammond, and for Chris Vera, who's on assignment, and for Live at 2-5, who's on assignment, and for the Viking, who is somewhere in Asgard, somewhere in the Bifrost, looking for more Infinity Stones. We will see you for episode 110, and we'll see you on the other side of the ball. Good night, guys.
All right. Peace.